So to get this straight from the beginning, this strategy does not certainly work every attempt. That is because we are using a new skill in Generation's ultimate called Bitter Crit, which has a 25% chance of turning a negative crit into a positive one. However, not with the normal times 1.25 multiplicator, but an insane times 2 multiplicator. Since the greatsword we're using has a minus 70% affinity, we're left with a 70.5% chance to actually get this bitter crit. Luckily, our strat features a 100% positive crit greatsword as well, so we don't need to get it twice, which would result in a ridiculous chance of only 3%. So we had to try over and over until the skill triggered. To achieve the 2-shot though, there are a lot of different things to take into account. We are also using a food skill called Feline Heroics, which gives an attack boost of 35% as long as you're below 10% health. That's why Mitsuha and me, Titania, bring ourselves down to around half of our health using toad shrooms and bitter bugs. You might wonder why we don't go all the way down to 10% health now, but you'll understand later on. The next step we have to do is just wait until our alchemy barrel reaches 5 bars. Why? Because it gives us an item called Alchemy Cheer that fills up Hunter Arts. This is so much more convenient than having to either grind up using small enemies or, if none are available, like in this case, get hit by Fatalis over and over for ages. Thanks to alchemy we can fill our Hunter Arts in about 4 minutes. Since alchemy allows us to pick 3 Hunter Arts, or 4 party members can use it for the run. There is just one restriction. The Brimstone / Hunter Art takes a lot to charge up, in fact too much to fill it up with 4 of those alchemy cheer items, even with a Hunter String. For that reason we are using the Composed skill in all of our sets. Thanks to that we can fill our Brimstone in a single cycle, and it even slightly shortens the time the alchemy barrel needs to reach 5 bars. Good enough to sacrifice a skill slot for it, since there aren't a whole lot of other skills necessary to reach maximum damage. While we're waiting, let's have a quick look at the sets we used for the greatswords. The first set uses the following skills. Sharpness +2 in order to reach white sharpness with the Aged Greatsword, Bitter Crit for reasons already mentioned, Trump card which boosts the effect of Hunter Arts, more about that later, and as already mentioned, Composed. The second set is just slightly different. Critical Eye +2, so we'll be able to reach 100% affinity. Critical Boost, which turns the times 1.25 multiplier into a times 1.4 multiplier. Trump cards. And Sharpness +2 to reach purple sharpness with the Anfang Fin for just a little bit of extra damage. When the alchemy barrel is almost ready, Seraphim starts playing the earplug song so Fatalis won't troll us, and the attack up song for a damage increase of 20%. The hunting horn set uses the skills Bombardier, Composed and Horn Maestro, which makes the songs last 2 minutes instead of 1.5. Then we are shaking the alchemy barrel to create the alchemy cheer item. But not all of us will use it from the start, so we can refill the full house Hunter Art of the lightbow gun on the fly. We chose the rare 4 Blangonga lightbow gun because it has a nice load capacity for Sleep 2 and Sleep 1 and has Demon S as internal ammo. We can't use Demon Affinity S since it would screw up the minus 70% affinity on the Aged Greatsword. The set consists of Recoil Down plus 3, Load Up, Bombardier, and Composed. Once Fatalis is put to sleep, everything has to go fast. ZenAkura needs to buff Mitsuha with Demon S. Mitsuha waits until Trump card activates and uses Lion's Maw for an additional 33% raw and another 15% thanks to Trump card. Meanwhile, Seraphim and ZenAkura put down 2 large barrel bombs plus next to Fatalis' head, just barely out of reach for them to hit him. Then Mitsuha takes a Might Pill for an additional 25 raw and activates Brimstone Slash. Once it reaches the maximum charge level, the bombs are blown up to activate Brimstone's special effect. Depending on the amount of damage taken while charging it, raw damage potentially increases by up to 50%. That's why we're using Bombardier in the Lightball Gun and Hunting Horn sets, just to make sure we reach the maximum of 50%. Thanks to the 707 defense our sets have, the damage of the bombs also brings us down to below 10% health to activate Feline Heroics. And now an insane amount of damage is going to be released onto Fatalis' head, given that Bitter Crit will trigger. But let's quickly lean back and calculate how much damage he's actually going to take. As you can see below, the raw damage of the Aged Greatsword reaches 1600. But how do we actually calculate that? Calculation of raw damage is pretty straightforward. First, you need to add all of the additional factors together. In our case, those are 380 raw from the Greatsword itself, plus 7 from eating attack up L before going on the quest, plus 7 from the Mega Demon drug taken at the start of the quest, plus 25 from the Might Pill, plus 6 from the Power Charm and plus 9 from the Power Talon. Those result in 434 raw. Now we have to factor in the multipliers on top of that. Times 1.2 from the Hunting Horn buff, times 1.35 from Feline Heroics, times 1.33 from Lion's Maw, times 1.15 from the improvement of Lion's Maw thanks to Trump cards, and times 1.5 from the bombs hitting us during Brimstone Slash. This will ultimately result in 1613 raw. But wait, why did it only display 1600? That is because Capcom once again capped the damage, like they did in Generations at 999, but this time at 1600. Without that, raw damage up to 2000 would have been possible, but we'll sadly have to live with 1600. The number displayed on your screen isn't the amount of damage you'll do, however. There are even more things left to calculate. First we take the 1600 raw we reached. Now we have to multiply that by all the factors the game normally doesn't tell anyone about. Depending on your sharpness, raw attack is multiplied by a specific multiplier. In our case, with light sharpness, that multiplier is times 1.32. Demon S has a sharpness multiplier of times 1.1. The Bitter Crit has a crit multiplier of times 2. When a monster sleeps, you deal times 2 damage with a waking hit. Each attack has a fixed multiplier attached to it called motion value, which determines that a sword and shield slash, for example, will do less damage than a greatsword slash. The Brimstone Slash has a motion value of times 1.9 for its last charge level. Trump card increases the motion value of Hunter Arts by 20%. And finally, the Brimstone Slash has an additional sharpness multiplier of times 1.3 for the last charge level. That all results in a total damage of 27,543. But wait, that would be way more than enough to one-shot Fatalis with 23,850 HP. That is because there are 2 more things to factor in. A. The hit zone defense of a striked part, which is times 0.7 in the case of Fatalis' head, and B. The quest defense, which can be looked up on Kironiko, for example. The quest defense of this quest is times 0.75. Now we know the amount of damage dealt to Fatalis is 14,460. That leaves him with 23,850 minus 14,460 equals 9,390 HP. And I'll take them from him with the next hit. But first, ZenAkura has to put him to sleep again. After that, the process is almost exactly the same. The only difference is that I also use the Hunter Art Frenzy Fever. When Trump card is active, this will automatically grant the positive effect of Frenzy. For this particular greatsword, it means all of the negative affinity it has is added on top of the positive affinity. Plus, it grants an additional 15% affinity. This in combination with critical eye +2 results in a total of 100% affinity, so we won't get trolled by RNG. With the 330 draw of this greatsword, we will reach a total of 1427 with everything factored in. And with the true damage calculation, we get a total damage of 9506, which ultimately kills Fatalis.